truth. All right.
This is amazing.
Last year, when I started my talk, I made a proposition to everybody that we wanted to start a DC 435 group up in Logan that I've been working on for like a year plus and couldn't get enough core bodies. And I wanted to give a shout out and thank you to SAINTCON, because when I made that, right after I went downstairs in the next few days, I had a group of people who came who were like, let's do this, and we did it. And we launched last January, and we've had a Prezzo every month since, except for 4th of July. So we are turnout 70, 40 people every month, which is great. So Logan, represent. DC 435 is a thing. Our coming out party was downstairs. We have a booth. We have shirts. We got stickers. All the things hackers love. The point of this is, find a group of like-minded people and work on stuff. It gets you excited. And if it doesn't exist on where it's at, where you're at, you got to make it sometimes. And you got to reach out to your community and have them help you, because you can't do it by yourself. All right. So who am I? My name is James Pope. Everybody just calls me Pope because it's easier to say. You find me on Twitter at blesstheinfosec. I'm pretty active there, and it's pretty much just infosec stuff. I work at RSA, where I'm a senior sys engineer, and also a threat hunter for them. I teach a lot of threat hunting workshops, and just try to help people improve security, right? I also am on the committee of SAINTCON here, along with a bunch of other fine people. I do the AV. I also work for Black Hat. I help them run their NOC. I'm a team lead there. I did Black Hat Asia. I'm going to Black Hat Europe right after Thanksgiving. So it's pretty exciting. DC 435 we already talked about. DC 801, still my family. I like me DC 801 group, and these are still my people. I'm not going to ditch them just because of DC 435. They're still my family. Bridgeland Technical College, I sit on their cyber curriculum board, and B-Side Salt Lake is also another favorite fun security conference. You know what that is? It's February to April, depending on whenever Bryce books it. But we do that in Salt Lake typically, and it's great. I also have degrees and certs. So more about my background. I have been in movie theaters for a lot of years. I've done a lot of things in theaters that quickly led to IT and then led to security. Right? So if you pick a position in theater, there's a high chance I've done it or know way too much about it. InfoSec, started getting InfoSec, and there was a breach that occurred in 2011 that I got really into the IR and started getting lots of PCI, going in the PCI trenches, throwing stuff out with PCI, and it's a mess. And then I went to a SAINTCON in 2014, and at that SAINTCON, I made a mention how terrible the AV was to a friend of mine. And it was bad. And I don't know what to show you guys what SAINTCON is. I'm just really happy about this video. This made me look, I was just mentioned this to Lonnie, and then he built this thing, right? I have a lot of dumb ideas, but they rarely go into action. But this is amazing. I just love the gamification of doing things, and it's just amazing when our community gets together. We're all kind of introverts, and we can let's pick a thing and win a prize, right? It's a lot of fun. So I went to that SAINTCON, kind of complained about it. And I missed the opening keynote. It's the first time I ever went. And Troy here, the guy who runs the SAINTCON, if you don't know Troy, go hang out with him. He's a cool dude. He was sitting across the aisle, and he made like, oh yeah, what would you do different type of thing. And I made like, first, dumb things, right? I didn't know who he was. That was my bad. But he didn't say much after that. But then, at the end of SAINTCON, he said like, hey, everybody with SAINTCON, oh, our screen's moving again. Just pipe it into the middle here, just in case. He said everybody SAINTCON gets like a free, like a free 6-month membership to 801 Labs or something like that. And I was like, wait, there's more of this, more often? And so I went to 801 Labs, and they were just moving spaces, and I like helped paint walls and run data cable and a whole bunch of stuff, and Troy was there and started asking about AV, and I have an extensive knowledge of AV when it comes to like movie theaters, like $80,000 projectors, and I pay techs to do that. Like I don't do that. But it quickly was like, well, now you're told into doing AV. So that's how I got into AV. Then the InfoSec world, consulting analyst, BizSec, Black Hat, hacking, now at RSA. And the important, when I was working on my masters, I had 3 nights a week that I gave to do masters. It's a pain, right? Disaster recovery policies and all a bunch of nonsense. When I finished, I gave 2 nights back to the family and kept 1 night for project night. I still hold that. That is key to the things I do randomly, and the key to this talk. Project night is where you just get together yourself or with other people and you work on something you're interested in. It's where you realize you hate reverse engineering malware because assembly sucks, right? But I wouldn't know that if I didn't try it. It sucks. And this is the thing. When I was at UEN, we did a bunch of physical pen tests, and this is one of the very few videos I could show because it didn't have any identifiable information breaking into offices. I think this exact one we did 3 doors right in a row, and each one were under like 30 seconds. We have that full footage, but we're not allowed to show it. You have it on your phone.
I do have it.
You do. But anyway, this is the thing. I didn't think this made me unique or anything weird. When I was 16, I was doing this, breaking into my boss's office to like use the internet and stuff. But apparently it makes me unique. I don't know. Anybody can do it. It's cheap. There's a roll of film downstairs in the DC435 booth if you want your own to go break into rooms. It works almost everywhere, including hotels. Okay, so SAINTCON did the AV 2015, started doing B-sides, helped out some Open West, and then DEF CON's asked me to help them with a few times, but I can't. It's too much. So I slimmed it down to the things that I really, really love in life, and that is SAINTCON and B-sides. It's just too much. The summary of that is I have no passion for AV. I do not want a company in AV. Every people keep telling me I have a company in AV, I hate it. I problem solve. I think I'm okay at it. I think people can still do better at it than I do, but I have no passion for AV. So I can't. A weird thing. Now that said, AV is a great tool for getting to know everybody. You get to hook them up, you get to work with them, you get to talk to them. I've learned and met so many people from doing it. There's the byproduct is phenomenal. Volunteering for a con, I highly recommend it. It's not the only path, but it's a good path that's there, right? And I noticed a thing, that these security thought leaders, these experts, these really hardened people, privacy people, the whole gambit, that when they were staring in front of a room of this size, or bigger or smaller, all their security went out the window if something didn't work. Meaning, the projector was flickering into something weird, they would let me do whatever I wanted to their machine. Just make it work. Here's my password, just get in, fix it. And I also realized you can orchestrate that, right? You can make things not work to be able to do stuff, right? If they bring their own adapter, they bring their own laptop, you can, it's your adapter, and it was working earlier, but they will take whatever you give them because they want it to work. And I thought, that's interesting. How do I make AV actually matter to my InfoSec world? Because I don't like AV, right? it's not like, I have no passion for it. There's no like, AV, what's the new thing? I don't care. But InfoSec, I do. InfoSec, what's the new thing? I do, right? So it's like, how can I put these together so it doesn't, like, this 5 years of my life are on a waste, like just doing AV, right? And I came up with an idea of an HDMI adapter that would act as a hub and do a Wi-Fi with a priority 1, and I could man in the middle of network traffic while they're presenting. Seemed like a great idea, right? I bounce it off people, plausible, yes, feasible, yes, but the effort is like that graph, super hard. It's so much work. I started talking to people that are really smart about doing it, and the answer coming back was a lot of freaking money, more than project night time and more than project my money. So then I was like, what else can I do? Because I really want to kind of tie this together and screw with presenters. People like me up here, right? So I came across, Mousejack is a thing from 2016. I remember reading about it. I remember even like doing like a group policy patch on it way back. But this guy, Mark Newland, who did it when he's at the Bastille Group, he came out with the clicker injection vulnerability in 2019. So right about the time that I realized it was not feasible this year, this clicker injection drops. And I was like, what? Clicker injection? That's right up my alley. AV, clicker injection. So I start playing with it, and let me just give you a teaser of this video while it's going, but my proof of concept ended up a lot like this video. It was not good for me.
You're on the screen. You can move out of the way. Move!
Alright, so yeah, it ended poorly for me. I'll go into that further in just a second. So, I started learning this in like June of this year, and then the timeline kind of went into from June to we had a child. I started at RSA, and I lost like a month of my life somewhere in there, and then suddenly it's black hat time, right? And so the device that they use, there's a few options to do this, and you can just use a Logitech device. There's a few others, but I settled on this Crazy Radio PA because I went to Amazon and it said $22 or $24, and buy now, and it showed up in 2 days, quantity 2, right? And if you go buy them, you just type in Amazon Crazy Radio PA, they fluctuate between $24 to $35 right now. If you want to get a slow boat, you wait a while longer, it'll be cheaper, right? So that's the size of it. I have one here. They're about a USB drive size without its antenna. With its antenna, maybe slightly more than double. And what you do with it, it's probably hard to see from the back and whatnot, but I'll just give you a high level. It can scan these channels in the 2.4, and you can narrow it down to say, I just want to have the Logitech channels, which is 274 and 3, and it's going to come back with this MAC address, and that's Logitech's way of identifying a device. This is the device, right? And these longer movements are like mouse movements that it's seeing. All right, and then this last one here is if you just point it as a sniffer mode, you can see a whole bunch of stuff rolling in, right? So my POC, this is a screen grab of my POC. I spent my proof of concept doing it at my house. I spent over an hour on this. So the tutorial is like, just do this, install this thing, do this. After all of that, I spent an hour on it. And I had just changed the default script of the payload to all your base belong to us, spelt wrong, because I just typed it quick. And I kept running it, and I didn't know what to expect. So it prints this out, and all your base belong to us, and it's like an hour. And I just keep doing it, and what I had is an attack laptop and a victim laptop. On the victim laptop, I have Notepad open. I want to run it, and I want to see it print that out on my victim laptop. And I couldn't do it. Just kept going. I kept going to all the steps. I reset the whole thing. Let's start from scratch, do it again, and I went back to that scanner mode, and I saw a second MAC address. So my clicker's plugged into my victim, and I saw a second MAC. I'm like, what is this? I'm at my house. And at that point, I'm frustrated, and when I get frustrated, I just try anything. So I switched the MAC address out, and it turned out it was my own mouse and keyboard. It wasn't a clicker. My mouse and keyboard I was injecting into, so this right here was essentially me exploiting myself in my terminal over and over and over for like an hour. So it was working. So it was exciting, but super frustrating, right? So frustrating. So my own mouse and keyboard, which this was my go-to jam, the Solar Power 750 there, it never needs batteries, and the Marathon mouse that's 3 years on one battery, sad face. So then I was like, I thought I was doing a clicker exploit, but it turns out I'm doing a Logitech exploit, right? I don't know if we have time to get to all these videos because I want to get John's stuff in here, but let's get to the end. Essentially, I created a POC of doing this, of a video where it would pop up calculator. And I thought that would be an easy way to do a POC. That's what we do in the InfoSec world. We pop calc, everybody says it's a win. And so I did that. And then I started circling to a few buddies. And they're like, that doesn't count. I'm like, what do you mean doesn't count? I'm running like an executable. Doesn't count. Because you're on the machine. And I'm like, no, it's remote. And so we came up to like, if I run PowerShell, grab a script from the internet and pull it down, does that count? And the consensus was yes, that's a universal, that will count. And again, we're just going to skip right to that part for time's sake. And so again, this is all again remote. It's my victim laptop, my attack laptop. Run it. I call this Rick ASCII. It's taken from something else. I didn't write that, but I did make some tweaks to it called Hacking the Hacker, and of course download life to get it to USB-C. So this was again the clicker, and the universal was yes, that's a thing. Right at this time is when I think we had our child, and it kind of just fell off the radar of what I was doing, and I resurfaced back in life at Black Hat, and show up at Black Hat 2019 where I run the knock. I do not run the knock by myself. I have a team lead at the knock. I have a team of like 5 people. There's plenty of other people doing a lot of amazing stuff there. And we setup there sucks, right? It's a ton of work. Just like AB, your setup day is it's a lot of work. So we get set up, and then day 2, Will, you were there, 2 or 3? I don't know. We surfaced for air, and I was like, oh yeah, I brought one of these crazy radios with me. Let's try some hackery, right? So I plug it in and I scan, and I see back like 8, 9 devices, and I was like, I wonder if they're vulnerable. Because I was trying to do a clicker thing for AV, tie it together, then my own mouse and keyboard, and now I'm like, what are these things? So we isolate in the bowels of Mandalay Bay to isolate it down to one device, and we try it, and yeah, it just runs. Rick Askew, running on there. So these are our little touchpad keyboards that are wireless, a little touchpad on this side. They have that unifying receiver up there, and they're all vulnerable to this attack. So then, of course, I'm Rick asking everything I can in the Black Hat Knock. It goes further, and I see people's mice that have them, and I'm like, can I have permission to do it? Some are just like, I'm just going to unplug that, right? And others are like, nah, you can't, and it's fine. And I'm like, do I have permission to try to see? You cannot touch my machine. What if I do it 20 feet over there? If you can do it 20 feet over there, you can do whatever you want. So I step back 20 feet. We're on the exploit, your Rick Askew pops up, right? And they begrudgingly security people pull out their gun, right? So then I realized I feel like I'm pretty good at security, but maybe I'm not, right? Here I am completely vulnerable on my own machine, so I'm like, maybe I'm not. I feel like we're pretty good at Black Hat. We spend so much effort on security, and then like, what the heck? And then, and there's security people there, same thing, and I'm like, so now my eyes are open. Logitech, I just start seeing it everywhere. I walk downstairs, Logitech. Just everywhere I go. What is that? That's a Logitech device. That's a Logitech device, Logitech device, Logitech device. Everywhere I go, everything's just Logitech everywhere. So I bust out my scanner. I didn't have the wherewithal to actually grab a screen grab, but this is a similar one. It flooded in with Logitech stuff. Right? So much Logitech stuff. This was the Black Hat vendor floor. So good times. Again, more Logitech, more Logitech, more Logitech. Everywhere I go, I see Logitech. This one says miss nothing, they miss something. But Logitech, Logitech, everywhere you go, Logitech, everywhere. This one had a lot of Logitech, right? So actually, Grifter sent this to me afterwards because I'm there with him, we're chatting. He sends me this story, but there's a Reddit post on this. His name is Josh Conway, where he built a little tablet version of the same thing, and the DEF CON wall sheet, which for those who don't know what the wall sheet is a board on the wall to say, you suck at security, here's your creds in clear text, right? Now, they've got a little more PC over the years. They've now obfuscated your password because people used to just turn around and log right into those. But it's still their full username, like their email address, whatever's in clear text is just sitting on the wall to say, encrypt things and be better at security. Their wall was vulnerable to this attack, right? And then he has a reporter come in from Hackaday, I think it was Hackaday, Sophie, and her mouse doing the report was vulnerable. Right? So now I'm thinking, our security sucks, right? If security people are bad at this, this is now fun, right? Let's take this somewhere. So the impact of this is high, like really high. Like your entire organization high that you can't, all it takes is one pinhole and you could reckon a whole org with this. Let alone a whole bunch of other stuff for pen tests and fun use of this, right? But once it starts, even if one person, you have a good policy, only wired mouse and keyboards, somebody who wants a wireless comes and plugs it in, here you go. Beer everywhere, right? Can't stop it. So what devices does this support? Logitech Many, including some with encryption, right? Also, other brands, I'm not going to say every model of all these brands are vulnerable. I'm going to say there is at least a model of every one of these brands that's vulnerable. A lot of it's due to code reuse and cloning stuff from factory to factory is a lot the same. To be clear, this is not Bluetooth. It's a 2.4, same frequency-ish, but just 2.4, not Bluetooth, right? All right, so patches. Logitech did patch in 2016. But didn't really quite work right. They came out with a new patch in 2019 of this August, so not very long ago, brand new patch. And new devices you buy right now are being shipped unpatched. You go to Amazon, you're like, I would like a new thing. And you buy that new thing, it will come unpatched. Linux, there is no patch. I got to spin up a Windows machine and mount it, but then that's kind of weird because you mount your keyboard, so I need another keyboard. It gets complicated. Ask me how I know. 2016 patches. Some things that were patched in 2016 are still normal in 2019. It's kind of interesting. And the overall takeaway is if us in security are bad at this, the general public is a mess. And in the security side, I can tell you that since then, I did this in Florida and Orlando. I went to Vancouver. These are all security conferences people I went. Vancouver, Alaska, and here is SAINTCON. This is a thing. Yep. All right, so patches. To get a Logitech patch, you think, again, I feel like I'm pretty good at computers, but maybe I'm not. Typically, I go to them and click on support or downloads, click on my model, download the thing, run the thing. I usually get a patch. That works for their software for the keyboard, but it doesn't work to patch the unifying receiver. You have to go to their main site and find the bulletin of the thing to patch the unifying receiver. And the only way to get this patch, it doesn't come automatically. You have to seek it out and find it. To know that this exists, you got to be somewhat security or somebody telling you this exists. You got to go patch it. So the quotes from here I'm about to read are people who sought out a security patch for a reason, and some are like, ever since I updated it, it broke. Please help me downgrade my firmware. Somebody wanted a security patch, and they're like, remove it. Why? Because it just breaks a lot of things. Some work, some don't. They learned Logitech, or I learned what Logitech already knows. Hardware is hard. It's very expensive and it's hard, right? Ran the update multiple times. Didn't work. Should I be concerned that after I ran it, the update, it still doesn't have the correct version? It completely broke after my update. And go look at their forum. These are just flooding in right now. There's even more. They're just fantastic. It's a good forum. I told you patches are hard to find. This is the best one I thought. Why is the update not through the unifying software? Why when I go get my download, my unifying software, does it not include that update? Good question. Logitech had a few other vulnerabilities that were disclosed by this Marcus on Twitter. If you want to get some Logitech wizardry that takes it even a different crazy level, follow this guy at MAME82. Legit stuff coming out of there. But he has some vulnerabilities to them, and they're just like, yeah, it takes high skill set and a lot of money, which we're going to prove at the end of this it does not. All right, so this is what Logitech posted about it. The Q&A, let's help you. How do I protect my privacy when using these Logitech products? About these vulnerabilities. And they said, don't do it when anybody suspicious is within 30 feet of you. In all directions. Right? Because Wi-Fi don't care about a silly. All directions, right? So expensive equipment, roof, drone, and there's a lot like my favorite clicker, which I'm not using today. My favorite clicker is a non-unifying device, which means you can't patch it. That is a forever vulnerable R800 clicker with a green laser, right? So, what did we decide to do with this? We decided to do what anybody would do who has Project Magnet. We would take it too far. So at Black Hat, we start brainstorming ideas with a knock, like, well, so I go out, how far can I go? 30 to 50 feet comfortably I can start injecting before it gets weird, right? Maybe we can max out the audio first, because we're rickrolling. It is playing a sound, but we couldn't hear it on the sound. Let's turn up the audio first, then we can do it. Maybe we can rotate the screen, like all the ways to screw with people we just started thinking about, right? And then how far can we take it? So I start sticking antennas on the thing. Start sticking other antennas on the thing. Stick bigger antennas on the thing, right? And let's just say that RF is, I'm not an expert at it. I guarantee there's somebody in this room who's smarter than me at it. But depending on interference, about 900 feet. So Logitech says, well, it's 900 feet in all directions. So just make sure nobody's suspicious within your 900 feet in all directions, and you should be good. So that'll be fine. But yeah, take it too far. So I live in Logan up there. This is the view outside my house, and I decided I should just point this out. and see just what comes back. Now, I did do all channels, not just Logitech, so I pointed it out, and it just started flooding them in. I don't know, I didn't take the time to identify, is that a baby monitor or what it is. These are anything in the 2.4 that it's picking up, but there's a lot, and it's not even a big populous town, so some of these other places, point the ID antennas down, narrow it to the bands you want, Logitech, and if you have permission, you can try things. Okay, so then to take it too far, we decided, now everything I do, I want to do it movie, and I want to do it, because movie theater background, right? And I want to do it educational, not to just do a reverse shell back to me and pwn you. I want to be educational about it. So we decided, let's make an app, and we call the app NSA.chat. Why? Because the domain is available, nsa.chat, which we own. And you can go to nsa.chat and see it. And the tagline we have is, do we have audio on laptop? It's those two on the far right. Both of them. Nah, maybe not. It doesn't matter. So this is the famous scene of CSI, whatever it is.
NCIS.
NCIS, thank you. Where they're being attacked, and they're defending the network with 2 users, 1 keyboard. Which, by the way, doesn't work, apparently. For them even. And they're really good at it, because I can't even sometimes get my right and left hand to work together. And we'll just cut to it. Their boss here in a minute saves the day, stopping the breach by unplugging the monitor. But the reason this is important isn't to shame Hollywood, which is rightfully so in that clip. The reason this matters is because that's our tagline, 2 users, 1 keyboard, because I am using you. I'm using you. So that's the tagline, 2 user keyboard. So if you go to the website right now, feel free to pull up nsa.chat, this is what it's going to look like. Of course, our iconic icon of talking to me. And this is the PowerShell script I run. And then this is an explanation of what each thing means. Inside the brackets is to explain it, because PowerShell gets wonky, right? And you'll learn, we'll explain in a second, I had to get as short as PowerShell as I can to get it running in high privilege Windows R. So I needed to abbreviate and shorten. We went through syntax and a bunch of stuff. And so there's explanations. And in fact, a lot of my length, right there, that security protocol TLS 1.2, is to improve PowerShell security to accept my Let's Encrypt cert. PowerShell by default is 1.1 and below. It'll take an SSL 3 cert, no problem. The 1.2, it doesn't know what to do with. So there is a session-based command. This can be used legitimately for sysadmin stuff, or also if you just want to use Let's Encrypt and not pay for certificates. There is a command, security protocol TLS 1.2, that will only do it that session. It won't be there the next session, right? So a lot of mine is just to improve PowerShell security. All right, so John here's my brother and Project Knight, him and also a friend of mine, Chris Fietti. We're working on this, and we'll have him chat further about the app, because I know how to do some things, but I'm not a developer.
Yeah, so my name's John Cook, and I've been hanging out with James at a lot of these events for the last 4 or 5 years, helping with AV and just going all the security stuff and really enjoying it. But I'm a web developer by background. I've been doing it for about 13 years now. So this is kind of like an example of what the admin interface is. There's some buttons on here. Those will just issue keystrokes with a Python script and send them over the radio to whatever your target is. Here's kind of like some of the features that we got. We did it as an Electron app. Yeah. We did it as an Electron app because, again, I'm a web developer. It's technology stack that I'm familiar with, but you could have done this with pretty much anything. I just chose that for convenience.
And because
Electron works on everything. It's the same as Slack. You want to run it on Ubuntu, you want to run it on
cross-platform.
It's going to run it on
same concept should work on everything. We tested most of these with Windows specifically. Some things we played with, adding like a Microsoft cert to it. Apparently, there's a Sync Thief app that you can rip it off, like say Notepad or anything else, and add it on there. There's a layer on that we didn't do.
We'll get that. We have a slide for that.
The script James was showing earlier, that'll go and download the installer for this, and it'll do a silent install and just pop up and just basically take over the whole screen. It launches in full screen mode, and it's really hard. It's really annoying.
Kiosk mode with no X.
Yeah, if you all that for it, there's a background process that'll relaunch it. And
if I was to be a jerk, I would replace Explorer EXE with the app.
So yeah, some of the things we added for the trolling nature of just doing this, taking a screenshot, turning on your webcam, chatting, just 2 users, 1 keyboard. We send the keyboard commands over their keyboard interface, and it shows up in the chat window. I just send like a keystroke before that to identify this is coming from the other user. And then play sounds.
We play a lot of Matrix, like, do you know who I am? Because Neo didn't have to answer that phone, guys, but you did. But you don't have a choice. We're just going to send it to you.
Yeah. And basically, with the Electron app, you've got a full node environment. You can do anything you can find a package for. So there's packages for monitoring the clipboard. There's literally a keylogger package. There's all kinds of stuff you can throw in there.
Chris Gay had that one. Whatever is copied, whatever you have in your clipboard, it will paste it there and then open up Google with it. So that was pretty fun, actually. Because if you have creds in there, whatever you last copied, it's going to Google it for you.
Yeah, so kind of just having fun with trolling the users and making it stick that like maybe this is something we should be worried about.
Yeah, I do like the function keys. Who here knows that Windows supports function 24 by default? Windows 10. I didn't know that either. But once we had to start mapping these in hex, and I was like, what? Function 24, what is that? And we found a whole lot of weird ones that it also supports that we didn't play with much. But we invoke the admin, it's the same app on the victim and the attacker, and the only way to turn on the attacks, payloads, would be the function 24 key.
Yeah, so kind of having fun with that. And along that point, there's lots of other control keys that have been through the history of human input devices that are still available for your macro key if you want. Kind of some of the scope on this. I did throw a reverse SSH command on there just to get an external thing. This was going to be for something I didn't quite get to, but like this exposes the chat logs. So you can actually see what's on the other side, because some of the devices, even if they're vulnerable to injection, you can't sniff. So if you want to see what they're typing back to you,
Yeah, I want to chat with them. So we had to get a reverse shell to get their typing back. And
that's literally what we did for that.
We did get this working, but it's not back in the app. It just prints it out to a web page right now.
Yeah, so you just go refresh that page and see what they're typing.
We'll get it back in the app.
There's a payloads folder where you can drop a Python script that's kind of for the admin. You can add extra whatever macros you want, bind them to keys, do whatever you want. And then on the node side, you can handle the keystrokes and do other local scripts like the reverse shell and web shell, that kind of stuff. This is kind of like that certain thing I mentioned. It does show up as not being valid. There's a way you could, using the keyword, downgrade a registry key that would actually allow this to pass, but we decided not to do that because that actually would reduce the...
Yeah, so I'm going to add a little more infosec on this part. So you can absolutely, so NSA.chat right here is being signed by Microsoft, yes? The reason that's interesting is because a lot of EDRs do not let you kill Microsoft stuff because you break Windows. So, hey, you can't shut it down in some situations. And as it's saying, if you go further, you're going to see the hash. There is a way in registry to downgrade the security of Windows to allow that, but that's just malicious and has no educational or fun value. It's just malicious, so we are not going to do that. But you could, and a lot of Mimikatz tutorials will show you how to do that.
And a lot of the controls to prevent this kind of stuff are bypassable if you have access to the keyboard. So I mean, the prompt comes up for the UAC, and you just issue a tab.
So
tab
if you go to NSA.chat and just download that payload from GitHub, Smart Screen will not like that. But again, as he's saying, it's tab enter, tab enter to bypass that. But that said,
I'll click yes, and it'll go. So
but the way we run it through PowerShell, that doesn't pop up. But if you were to go and download it direct, that will come up in a browser.
Or do other things that require UAC. So, I mean, the security model kind of assumes whoever's at the keyboard can do stuff. So,
and then Bitly here. So I had to make it really short. We had to get it as short as we could because again, that Windows GUI-R, I wanted to run it all there in GUI-R. So really, I think it's 160 characters or something like that. It's Twitter. You got to get it in Twitter, and you got to make it short and it needs to fit. So I was like, I just need to make a Bitly link instead of this GitHub long thing, right? And so I put it in Bitly, and it worked like 2 times. And then Bitly's like, "We are not delivering this exe, sir. That is shady." So then I realized I own NSA.chat, so now it's just p.nsa.chat. I was like, why don't I just make my own? So if you want to go download direct, it's p.nsa.chat.
We have a bunch of other ideas. These are not necessarily things we did, but just other things you can do to troll people with this or add to it with some time. So yeah, if there's other ideas that might be fun.
in the testing, we found that you could replace the Chris found you could replace the mouse image with like up to like a 4K image. Windows supports that, and it will crash the computer. And we also found you can replace them with he had like a scaling where it got bigger, like a rainbow one, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger until it crashed your computer. And then you could replace them with round objects, and good luck finding where the pointer's at. So. Again, we didn't implement, so some of these we're thinking maybe we'll implement, but we need a revert key because some of these are like, you can't, there's no setting in Windows to put that back without going to registry, right? And if, again, malicious, you go ahead, you want to let us run. Let her run. In Windows, you can, so yeah, now go ahead. So if you're being really malicious, 2 users, 1 keyboard. If you're being really malicious, you would add it to like your scheduled tasks. So even if they close it, they alt F4 it or whatever, you could just pop it back up like, hey, how's it going? I'm still here. Now, the reason it got me really excited and attracted was because, again, I feel like I'm good at security, but if my computer, chat window, anything started popping up, first thing I'm doing is freaking out. I'm shutting off my NIC, right? Like, I'm like, no, internet out, unplugging it, Wi-Fi off, but it would still work. And then I would lose my mind. I would not know what to do. Now, again, you know about this vulnerability. I do now, but at the time, I would have lost my mind. What is happening right now? Do I have the internet? I'd go to my network devices. I would lose my mind. And I would shut off my laptop and try to IR that entire thing. And nothing would show up, right? Because it's all my keyboard. So in this example, this is me. The app, it runs in the background. And I turn on the webcam. Some interesting things to note, it'll run with no admin credentials. We use Windows features of temp, so it runs in temp, so that's great. Fully patched machines, I tried out a bunch of EDR solutions, nobody cares. Electron's good to go. And oh look, I'm naked, my shoulder's exposed, so you can close that. So you can turn on webcams, lots of fun stuff. So yeah, fully patched box, it pops up, you'll see PowerShell for a second, then it will disappear, right? And then it downloads the app in the background, and then we'll present you a chat application in full screen mode. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to troll people. So I've already talked to a lot of people and asked them this question. If you are presenting on stage at a conference such as this, or even in a boardroom with just your executives or whoever it may be, and PowerShell popped up and closed, what do? Do you decide, well, I'm at a security conference, they all saw it, I saw it, do we just acknowledge it? Like, that can't be good, and carry on? Do we stop immediately, because that's my corporate laptop, and has all my keys on there, or do we just pretend nothing happened? And there's a few variations of that, and the answer is, everybody answered that differently. I've had all those answers. Some people like, corporate always pushes stupid stuff over PowerShell, so I wouldn't even know if it's legit or not. That sounds scary. I've had others that are like, the presentation's too important. You just gotta roll with it. I'm like, okay. So then I ask them a follow-up. What if your laptop starts spaceshipping? And for those who don't know what that is, you've never had a MacBook Air. But a spaceship is when all your fans are at full extent and it sounds like it's about to just hover off your desk. Just take it off, which means you're likely getting ransomware or crypto mined at that point, right? Something's using all your resources to do a thing. So if you're presenting, it pops up, you're like, that can't be good. And then it starts spaceshipping, what do? And I don't know if there's any right answer here. I'm just saying, this is totally plausible, right? Okay, so things you can do, right? It can't bring you just security doom and gloom. It is fun, but things you can do. Patch relay unifying devices, that would be good, right? Unplug them. I unplug mine, right? In a business environment, determine how critical it is. If you're in a SOC, you're in a NOC, you're in somewhere that's super critical, I'd probably say that needs to be an RF-free environment. That's probably hardwired mouse and keyboard. And somebody's going to complain. But maybe you can come up with something cool, like a gaming keyboard. I don't know. But I would probably say in that scenario, I didn't mention, I was at the DEF CON village, and sitting there and talking with a guy about this, where we're going through, and other people are using this for pen tests right now. This is happening. Which means criminals are using this too, right? We're not the only smart ones. Criminals are using this too. And he mentioned of an engagement he did that he was just pulling them all in and delivering a payload reverse shell to each one. And there was a building next door which he knew their domain and was ruling those out. I'm not saying that's the right tactic or not. I'm just saying that's what this is getting on my story. But proves a point. And he got back a different domain that was not in either one of those. So he calls his, and after looking at it a little bit, he realized this was something important. He calls his rep from the person he's been testing and says, do you know what this is? And the guy goes, how the heck did you get there? And it was, his words, 6 layers deep of inception. I call the inception part, but 6 layers deep, meaning from his workstation, through this jump box, through his Bastion host, through a smart card reader, into this Gov Cloud scenario. But because his mouse and keyboard were focused on Gov Cloud, the shell deployed on wherever that was. Wherever that mouse and keyboard was is where that got delivered and got a reverse shell back. So again, if it's something sensitive, probably wired. Could you patch and have that vulnerability gone? Yeah, but based on the track record, and we all know patches and vulnerability software, I don't know. My personal recommendation would be probably time to wire that, right? Use a house laptop, which at AV, my hardest job is all your stupid laptops, right? I got a weird Linux distro that puts out some stupid thing, you know. I made a Gen 2 thing, and it's a mess when I hook it up. I would rather use a house laptop, because it's easier for me. So, coming full circle, right? Or use a burner laptop. In this scenario, I have a burner laptop. If you look on there, I'm not going to lift it up, it'll break it. But you can come look at it later. How about the sticker still on it? $100 from UU Bid Sell. You can get cheap laptops just to present. Your work might have one for you. And Windows 10 is actually your friend again, where you can just reset things. Used to not be. You can download from, it's finally caught up to Apple, what I'm trying to say. Bluetooth is better. Is better. Has its own set of force pairing problems, whatever. That Marcus guy, go look at him. He's doing a whole bunch of stuff with Bluetooth, but it is harder. It's not this trivial, right? Or you could just be stuck, confined behind your laptop, hitting your space and over keys, which I loathe. I have to move. I'm sorry, I can't do it. The high level of this is you pretty much can't trust anything plugged into your computer, and especially if it didn't come from you. This video right here, this guy, if you don't know him, follow him on Twitter, _MG_. This guy's doing wizard work right now. He's embedding tiny deliverable. In this scenario, his POC here is a RF receiver with rubber ducky scripts. And it is legit the size of a standard lightning cable. You can buy these today. They exist. They're on there. His latest one I just saw was a full USB cable C that was slightly smaller. Not plugged into anything, but will charge a phone and will pass through as a normal cable. But will take a frequency from a walkie click. So think Morse code, you want to click a thing, pop, 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 different payload. Pop, 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 different payload. How far can that go? How many watts you got? I sat through your class. How many watts you got? That's how far your RF can go. So in this one, he did a calculator, he did a web, coming back the other way too. All right, so I have a challenge for this audience. I've now presented this 3 times. I am absolutely willing to give anybody in this audience a Crazy Radio PA right now for free if you can find me a wired presentation clicker. Not a mouse. There's even some other mice that have like little handhold grips with the string. A presentation clicker that is wired. Because I want one. I think this talk would be funnier if I was pulling around a cord. Right?
Just tape it to the back, man.
I cannot find it. I've looked a lot. But if you find one, I will give you one for free. Whoever the first one is, I don't have unlimited of these, but I will give you one, right? If you have to do one, there's really expensive things, $1,700 things that you can get from AV companies, which I think are still vulnerable. I just haven't looked. This is probably vulnerable. Bluetooth is also better. Again, don't pair it anywhere near somebody within 900 feet, but then you'll be fine, right? And then my own mouse and keyboard is sad, because I don't use it anymore. And you can ask the logical question, well, you live in Logan, who's likely to do that? Fair point. 900 feet away, though, kind of scares me, right? And I need to eat my own dog food. I feel like I'm good at security, so I'm going to try to eat my own dog food. If I say these things, I did. But maybe you get a cool gaming computer, a gaming keyboard that has loud and clicky clicks, and it sounds like I type way faster than I do. Maybe not good for open offices. I don't know, right? All right, so we have some credits. Martin Newland built the foundation that I built everything on. All the stuff he did saved me. I probably never would have done it, right? The Bastille Group, they started it. He took it further, presentation clickers. Chris Vietti, good friend, personal friend of mine, love the guy. Development, ideas. John, clearly, here presenting. Black Hat Knock Team, lots of shenanigan ideas coming out of Black Hat Knock Team. Grifter Neil Weiler for his good looks. right? Our link to our GitHub's there. It'll continue. I don't know how long this will go in project night before we decide we're done. I'd like to get it to a place where a few more steps of being able to scan the radios and auto-apply them to POM. What I want to do is make it, the tool's $35. A Yagi antenna's $20. 900 feet away, you're talking $50, $60 depending on if you pay tax, right? So, and Logitech's saying very expensive. I'm saying not really, right? $50, you can go really far. And then they're saying high skill set. It is kind of a challenge. In fact, I will be releasing tomorrow on that GitHub the walkthrough on how to take a Ubuntu 8 machine and just do this with your own crazy radio without the app. So just quick and easy of this to this. The research Mark Dillon did is good, but I have every step. Run this thing, this is your prereq, here's how you flash your firmware. Because I've had to repeat it like 6 times now, so I documented it. Because it's kind of a mess. So that'll be right there. And then what I want to do, I don't see this being solved any other way besides Windows carry. I don't see it. Windows needs to be like, there's a patch for unifying receiver, and you want to apply it. But if it keeps breaking all the mice and keyboards, I don't think that's going to happen either, because they don't want to deal with that. So I don't know. It's kind of a mess. But if us in security is a dumpster fire already, as I've seen, it is bad. In security, if you're doing pen testing, this is probably a good avenue. You're probably going to get some shells back. Tweak that PowerShell to just give you a shell back. Maybe don't use a stupid port like 444, I'm going to pick it up on my SIM, right? But do something smarter, right? And our website is kind of cool, nsa.chat, go there. You can see the PowerShell stuff. The GUI-R, way privileged. I didn't mention this. I learned something new, GUI-R, highly privileged. If you try to run a PowerShell script, a lot of EDRs will flag it. A lot of group policy restrictions on your will say, no, we don't let PowerShell. But if you run GUI-R and type it all out there in PowerShell, good to go. Nobody cares. You're the user. You can do that. Rock and roll. If you know of one that'll flag it, let me know. I'd be interested. I'm more than happy to give them credit. Like, hey, they actually flagged that, right? Okay, that's the talk. So we'll wrap that, and then I'll answer some questions if we have time. Woo! Any questions? Yes, sir, with the question in the blue.
So Logitech, they've come out with the light speed technology that's actually what this mouse is. Have you tried it with that yet?
I have not. When did it come out?
Fairly recently, within a year.
Okay, but if it's before August, I'd say probably likely.
And it's supposed to be like a new technology that they've
The first thing I do with any of that, I look at the FCC stuff on it, put it in, is it a 2.4? Because even if you brand your marketing, if it's 2.4, then it probably is. But try it. Go buy a crazy radio, or I'll try it. Give me permission, let's try it.
Unfortunately, I don't have the dongle.
No dongle. How do you use the mouse without no dongle?
It's on the
Oh, all right. But validate it. If somebody said, I did ask the question, how do I check my order? Go buy a crazy radio and try it. And if I was doing a pen test, like physical on-prem, I would carry a bunch of Logitech dongles in my pocket. Maybe just one, depending on how I think I was going to get caught. You get caught with a bash bunny, security people know that's not good. That is something nefarious. You get caught with a little Logitech receiver, nobody cares. You shove that back in the computer, people are top. Go look at the back of computers, find the keyloggers. You see a Logitech device, does that raise a flag? Most orgs, it does not. That is standard. If there's 2 of them in there, is that a problem? Well, you can force 5 of these to one device. Maybe there's 1-to-1. Nobody knows. Just leave it.
So how altered is your wired figure allowed?
I can't hear you.
How altered is your wired figure allowed to be?
How what?
Altered.
Altered? Like you want altered?
Like if I bring one back.
I would love it to be within, like a 6 foot would be fine. 15 would be dope. A big strain would be amazing, but just I don't, give me about 4 or 5 feet. If it's a clicker, I will do it. Okay. Any other questions?
About 25 feet.
The question is, do you have a 25-foot presenter clicker with a wire? Absolutely, that'd be fantastic. The more comical, the better. Whipping this thing around, getting tangled in it. That big for a good prezzo, yes? Yes. Any other questions? All right, thank you for your time. Go do something shady and protect stuff. Enjoy the con.